Hey guys, welcome back to Building Ecosystems with Mr. Sarabian. Um, I got a little bit of a confession that I have to make. This last topic that we're going to cover is one that I think might be a little bit controversial given the time in which this video is being posted right now. Diseases. Now, I'm really going to try as best as I can not to fall into too many shall we say, controversial topics. So let's just stick to the facts, ecosystems, and limiting factors. Now, last time that we were together, we were talking about the different limiting factors that can affect ecosystems, specifically the things that could restrict the growth or the health of a population of animals in a given ecosystem. We started by talking about space. We then talked about invasive species. And funny enough, we even sort of tap danced around another element of that, which is competition. When I brought the Indominus in, it started directly competing with the Tyrannosaurus Rex. And when they started competing with each other for the food sources, unfortunately, what started happening is the food sources became the victims of that competition. And that's invariably what sometimes happens. When you have competition that starts going up, it's going to put a tremendous strain on whatever it is they're competing for. So that was what we already talked about. Now let's cover diseases. Now, the best way that I can define a disease in the case of ecosystems is basically any sort of physical condition that can all of a sudden cripple an individual species, or in some cases can cripple an entire population of different animals. Let's say, for example, we're looking at the Triceratopses for a moment. Now let's say that all of a sudden the Triceratopses developed an entirely brand new disease, something that was completely unfamiliar to the rest of the population of animals. So, unfortunately, what could happen are a few things. For one thing, you can have a small group of Triceratopses that suddenly die from this disease. Now, a couple of things could happen, and in any case, it gets really bad really fast. This disease, if it's virulent enough, could all of a sudden impact all of the other Triceratopses in this ecosystem and dramatically decrease their numbers. And, well, as we saw with space and with invasive species, once those population numbers start going down, that limits the amount of food that is available for the other dinosaurs. And here's the thing that can also get scary too. There are times when diseases aren't necessarily restricted to just one animal. We've seen this with the AIDS virus, and we've seen this with plenty of other conditions that are out there as well, that all of a sudden cripple not just one species, but other ones as well. For example, let's say that the raptors eat the meat of the Triceratopses, and that meat is infected by those parasites. That could all of a sudden kill off the raptors as well. And now look what happened. The entire group of secondary consumers has now been eliminated. Now you might be saying to yourself, well, what about the Baryonyxes? Once again, they're fish eaters. They don't eat anything that's happening out here, so they're not going to get affected, right? Well, that's not true, because if you recall, we still have the tertiary consumers. We got the top dogs. We got the Tyrannosaurus Rexes. Not only have the populations of Triceratopses dramatically decreased, but now we have less raptors. Now, on the one hand, you might be saying, well, that's a good thing. Now there's less competition for the T-Rexes. Well, on the one hand, yeah, you're right. But now that the populations of Triceratopses have dramatically decreased, now the food source for Tyrannosaurus Rex is eventually going to go away as well. And then what are they left with? Well, they're left with smaller herbivores like the Pachycephalosaurs, but pretty soon, because they're so small and because they're able to basically, do their thing very rapidly, they're also going to die out too. Or even worse, What they could do is they could actually have their population suddenly explode. And all of a sudden, they have much higher numbers, but then they eat all the plants. Now, without the Triceratopses, now they have a bigger food supply, but then they go through that food supply pretty quick. And without that food supply, the T-Rexes have to go after something. What's it going to go after? That's right, the Baryonyx. And then they die out. And eventually what happens? Nothing's left. This is scary. Diseases are a very, very scary thing, especially because in some cases, they could come up out of nowhere. And that's the reason why we have to act fast when all of a sudden a new disease has all of a sudden started affecting an animal population. This has actually been happening with the Tasmanian Devil. And yes, the Tasmanian Devil, not the Tasmanian wolf, the Tasmanian Devil. And by the way, yes, there is an actual Tasmanian Devil. It's not just the cartoon character from Looney Tunes. The Tasmanian Devil has now become prone to some severe moles and warts and growths, almost like cysts, all up and down their faces. And this is prevalent to only the Tasmanian devils. But there is always a possibility that that could start affecting other animals in their populations as well. And the problem is Tasmanian devils are so small in populations anyway, you could have that entire population wiped out almost instantaneously. That's why we're taking great care to try to find a cure for this virus. And in general, when it comes to viruses, we have to take them seriously. Viruses don't pick and choose. They basically go after entire populations. So I don't necessarily like to end on these kinds of notes, but guys, this is the truth. When it comes to the health and well-being of an ecosystem, we have to be very conscientious of our actions and the actions of other animals that might become a part of that ecosystem. So to wrap up for you guys, all I got to say is I had a lot of fun putting these together. And if you do want to see more videos like this, please let me know. I love Legos, I love building ecosystems, and I love working with you guys. So if there are any questions that you have about this series or any other series that I have up on this channel, please let me know. So this has been Mr. Sarabian building ecosystems. I hope you guys stay healthy and I hope you guys stay happy. Take care.